Hey, what's up, everybody? True Boxing here. Thank you for coming back to get hit with the truth. So today we're doing the what's next on former unified lightweight champion of the world, George Kambosos Jr., following a very disappointing 11th round knockout loss to Vasyl Lomachenko on May 18th, May 11th, as he challenged for the vacant title and just got dominated in that fight and stopped for the first time in his career. Before we get into that, if you could smash the like button, leave a comment, or subscribe to the channel, I really do appreciate any and all support that I can get as I continue to build my channel here. So, following the loss, Kambosos was humble, and just said he wants to get back on track. He's still young enough, he's still good enough to make an impact, and get opportunities. I mean, he's only 30 years old. But where is that going to take place? Is he going to stay at 135? Or should he move up to the very talented 140-pound division? Because Kambosos, people are going to want to fight him because he beat Teofimo Lopez, and he is a name, he's a name opponent now, a former champ, and he's seen as a very beatable option now by a lot of fighters. So a lot of fighters are going to want to take an opportunity against him, even if it means going to Australia, because you're going to make a boatload of money to do that. So I do believe he's become a viable option. Now I'm going to run through 135 real quick to see what options are there, but I'm also going to run through 140 because I think there's a ton of options there. So real fast through 135, we got Vasyl Lomachenko in a rematch, not happening. No reason for it. Gervonta Tank Davis. Tank's not going to fight him. There would be no reason for Tank to fight Kambosos. Shakur Stevenson. Outside chance that this could happen because of his name, but I don't think Stevenson would want to fight him. There wouldn't be a major point in fighting Kambosos. Jermaine Ortiz. A bad matchup for Kambosos. Really is a bad matchup for him. So I don't think he would want it. Isaac Cruz at 140 for the WBA title, maybe, but I just think Cruz has such a following now that and he's also with the PBC. I think it's going to be tough unless it's on one of those big Saudi cards, but there's so many other better options for him to fight, and he's also returning in August already to defend that title for the first time. Raymond Muratalla, I mean, if Kambosos wanted that smoke, I'm sure Muratalla would give it to him, but I just think he might be biting off more than he could chew taking on a guy like Muratalla when he could get bigger fights potentially at 140. William Zepeda, same situation. Biting off more than he can chew against a guy who doesn't have a huge name right now, but is definitely on the rise and would probably be favored to beat him. Zaur Abdullayev. If Kambosos really wanted to stay at 135 and make another run, Abdullayev would be a perfect comeback opponent following 3 losses in his last 4 fights. Frank Martin. Win or lose against Tank, I don't think Frank Martin's going to be interested in fighting Kambosos. Then WBO champion Denis Berianchek. I wouldn't be surprised at this. Berianchek is a good fighter. He's a new WBO champion, and he's also trying to make a name for himself. So he might want to take on a guy like a former unified champ like Kambosos to build his resume. For the majority part of me says he probably won't fight Kambosos, but that doesn't mean if the offer wasn't on the table that he wouldn't go for it. Edwin De Los Santos, not likely, kind of a risk fight. De Los Santos also with the PBC, so I don't think they come together. Angel Fierro, I don't see that one. A rematch with Maxie Hughes, I don't see that one. And then Floyd Schofield, I don't see that one either. Now at 140, a third fight with Devin Haney, not going to happen. Devin Haney handled Kambosos twice. No reason for it. Teofimo Lopez. It's funny. I can absolutely see Lopez fighting Kambosos, but I don't think he fights him next, if that makes sense. I think the possibility's there, but considering he's fighting a joke of an opponent next, and that's Steve Claggett from Canada, I think he's going to want to take on like a guy that's viewed as more of a threat in the second half of the year, and then he would then potentially want to fight Kambosos early next year. Now, that still might mean that next for Kambosos could be him if Kambosos takes that much time off, but I think Kambosos will do himself a big service if he fights first, you know, and gets a victory before returning to the ring. I think that might sell more, especially if he debuts at 140. He might be able to sell a fight with Lopez more. Josh Taylor. Taylor's coming off the loss. Not sure if he's going to want to stay around at 140. For a guy like Kambosos, maybe he would. I'm leaning towards the less likely, but I do think the fight's possible because they are tied to the same, you know, to ESPN and Top Rank. Jack Catterall. Catterall's with the zone. He's coming off of a big win. If Kambosos wanted to move up and fight him, I think it's possible, but I'm not sure Kambosos would want to come up and debut against a guy who's a slick southpaw boxer like Catterall. Jose Ramirez. Ramirez is now with Golden Boy and DAZN. I don't think this fight comes together at 140. I just don't think the two promoters are going to come together to make it happen. Sandor Martin. I think Martin can pretty much fight who he wants, but this is another situation where Kambosos would have to want this fight with Martin, and I don't think he wants a slick southpaw boxer that gives people problems. Regis Prograis. That might be a fight that Kambosos goes for, especially if Kambosos is kind of a free agent and can fight, excuse me, on whatever platform he wants. Him and Prograis would make for a fun fight. Not sure it comes together, but I do think something like that is possible. Subriel Matias. I don't think Kambosos is going to want to go straight into a Matias fight. Plus, Matias, after Liam Paro, if he beats Liam Paro on June 15th, Matias is going to have to fight, what's his name, Richardson Hitchens next, who's his mandatory challenger, most likely, unless he unifies. So I just don't think a fight with a guy like Kambosos makes sense for Matias. Then you got Arnold Barbosa Jr. Would love to see the fight, but Barbosa is no longer with Top Rank. He's with Golden Boy and DAZN. Maybe the fight can be made if Kambosos is a free agent, can fight wherever he wants. But I don't know. I just see Barbosa potentially getting the title shot first. You know, something like that, or a fight with Ramirez. We just got to see how it shakes out, but I'm leaning towards the less likely. Gary Antoine Russell, if he beats Alberto Puello, he's with PBC. I don't think Kambosos would want to fight a guy with his style. You got O'Hara Davies. If that fight would be an option, I think it'd be a fight that could sell, and Golden Boy wants to max out what they can get out of O'Hara Davies following Davies' brutal first-round loss to Ishmael Barroso in his debut for Golden Boy. Richardson Hitchens, likely not going to happen, plus it's a bad matchup, but Hitchens is in line for a title shot. Kenneth Sims, I don't see. Ishmael Barroso has been waiting around and waiting around. I just think he's a bad matchup for Kambosos. Nestor Bravo, I don't see it. Rolly Romero would be an interesting opponent selection because I think he's a big enough name to where Kambosos would be like, hey, I'll make my debut against him. And I think Romero would take the fight as well because they're both they're star fuckers. They're guys that want to fight in big fights, and pretty much those are the kind of fights they want to fight in exclusively. And then Ryan Garcia, not likely because Garcia's moving. I mean, after all the bullshit and talk that there was, maybe these two guys get together, but I think it would be at a catch weight above 140. And I do believe it's possible because of all their drama and their bullshit, but I'm leaning towards the less likely. So that's pretty much it. If I had to choose between the two weight classes, I don't know if Kambosos is going to want to come back against really anybody, but I think like a guy like Prograis or Teofimo Lopez in a rematch, you know, there's definitely options if he wants them. But I think Kambosos should move to 140, take more of a tune-up type fight first, ease his way into the division, and then try to get a big rematch for a lot of money with Lopez, because I think it would sell. Absolutely. Strike while the iron's hot. And while he's still enough of a name, and while Lopez still wants to get his revenge before it's looked at as no point. So that's it. That's what I got. That's my what's next on former unified lightweight champion of the world, George Kambosos Jr., following his very tough 11th round knockout loss to Vasyl Lomachenko. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, smash the like button, leave a comment, or subscribe to the channel. I appreciate any and all support. This is True Boxing. You've been hit with the truth.